old and abandoned buildings. They'll quite happily live in those as well. And different conservation groups are putting out little nest boxes in the wild up in trees, which they'll quite happily use as well. Now if you're lucky enough to see one of these guys, it'll generally tend to be when they're out hunting, so dawn and dusk time. A lot of people tend to think they're strictly nocturnal, but as you can see, he's out during the day, so that's not strictly true. Wild birds will only really tend to come out during the day when they really need to. So maybe through the summer months, when their chicks have just hatched, and then they have a couple of extra mouths to feed, which causes them to come out more often. Or through the winter months when the food that they're looking for is just that little bit more scarce. Now what these guys will feed on predominantly is rodents, fairly small things, mice, voles and shrews, that sort of thing. And the way that they hunt for them is just called still hunting. They'll sit up somewhere nice and high and just sit and wait until something that they like the look of scurries past. Then they'll hover above it for a split second before pouncing down on it on the ground. Now Nemo has a couple of typical owl features that do allow him to be quite an efficient predator. The first is that collection of feathers around his face. Now he's got that distinctive heart shape that's associated with the owls, and that's just made up by a little series of hardened feathers making up that little disc around the outside. His face altogether is fairly flat, and it has that little specialised series of feathers on the bridge of his nose just sticking out the way. And what they do is when he's collecting in sound, those feathers push the sound either side of his nose, span it across that flat face to his ear holes on either side of his head. Now his ears, his hearing is very specialised, but his ears aren't just little miniature versions of yours and mine. They're just little holes on either side of his head. And they're said to be asymmetrical. This just means that each of the left and the right ear hole is slightly different to each other. And they're different sizes. One is larger than the other one. They have a slightly different sensitivity to pitch as well, which just means the sound that he collects in is slightly different in each ear. And one is higher up than the other one. Just that means collectively it allows him to pinpoint the position of his prey with quite a fair bit of accuracy. Now that coupled with his eyesight, at a distance, owls' eyesight are very, very good. Their eyes are different shaped to ours. Instead of being spherical, they're shaped like tubes. And they're just fixed to the sockets in the skull facing forward, which is the reason that owls can't rotate their eyes like we can. They've evolved instead to rotate their heads round. Now being this shape just gives them a sort of binocular style vision, which allows them, just the same as his hearing does, to pinpoint the position of his prey with quite a bit of accuracy, and also judge distance as well. Now the final thing that these guys have is their ability to fly nice and silently. Now the reason he's got this, on his flight feathers on his wings, he's got a little series of fringes that just act like silencers. Basically they just deaden the sound made by his wings as he beats them through the air, which does provide him with two main advantages. The first one is the obvious. He can use stealth to surprise on his prey can't hear him coming. And the second is he can still use that fantastic sense of hearing without the interference of any wind rushing through his wings right beside his ears. But I think he's done quite well considering it's quite warm and very still today. So I think we'll finish him up there. If you give him a quick round of applause, we'll go pop away.